Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Crawford, and welcome back to another episode of the 7-Minute Spotlight, where we look at stories, ideas, and concepts for inspiration and encouragement. Today, we're going to take the story of an American inventor, businessman, truly a legend, Thomas Edison. Edison, if you do a search of information about him, one of the things that comes up all the time is that he, by himself or with others, is responsible for 1,093 patents of products or inventions that he had a hand in. Many of them we're real familiar with. He invented the first incandescent light, the light bulbs that we've used throughout the ages here. Sound recording, phonograph, motion pictures, the electric power grid, the way that we know it today, he was responsible for participating in creating that, along with the Westinghouse company. His company that he created is known today as General Electric. Even the invention of alkaline batteries, the batteries that we use to put in the hundreds and thousands of toys that we buy for our kids, flashlights, all those kind of things, he was responsible for. But another thing about Mr. Edison is that when you search about the invention, the creation of the incandescent light bulb, some historical information says that he failed 1,000 times. The other ones are way more than that. There is one, I believe, that I looked at said something like 2,700 some odd numbers of attempts that he made in creating the light bulb that failed. Now, not every single one of them he considered a failure. He learned things that didn't work, learned things that did work, and applied what he developed from those failures, from those attempts that did not bear fruit, to eventually get to where we have the light bulbs that we know today. Why is this important? Well, one of the things is for Mr. Edison is when you do these historical searches, when you search the internet, the first thing that pops up is it does not say, this is the guy that failed 1,000 times, or this is the guy that failed 2,700 times. He's known for his accomplishments, not his failures. And that's what we have to take a look at in our lives. We may not be a historical figure. We are maybe not going to get the fame and the notoriety of a lot of people, but do we have accomplishments? And every single one of us do. We might suppress them and we allow others to point out our failures. But the truth is, we need to be known for our accomplishments. And sometimes those accomplishments can be achieved by just a little bit of excellence, a little bit of extra diligence, a little bit of extra perseverance. And an example, again, that most of us are not going to be involved in, but if you take the great sport of baseball, a batter that bats 250, meaning he gets a hit 25% of the time, will, say a veteran player will get $1 million a year contract in that area. Somebody that bats 300, in other words, they get 30% of the time they get on base, 5% more, they will have a contract in excess of $4 million. I did a little bit of research, and the number of plate appearances, they call it, in a baseball season, 6 months long, 26 weeks, is a batter will have an at-bat 650 times. That 5% difference is if you would play 6 games a week, they usually get a day off. If you play 6 games per week and you got one extra hit every week, and then 1 month, one of those weeks you got 2. In other words, 1.25 hits per week is the difference between being a 250 hitter and a 300 hitter. It's a difference between $1 million and a $4 million contract. Again, most of us are not going to get multi-million-dollar contracts, and we're not going to be baseball players and sports figures and athletes. Most of us are going to live great lives, but we're not going to have that level of notoriety. But the principle is true. The little bit of extra effort that we put into our life, our job, our parenting, our commitments, our relationships, that little bit of extra effort can pay off. The person, we don't need to be workaholics, but the person that sees the project through to its completion, gets it to where it's going, understands that people are depending upon the outcome of what you're doing. If you look at the diligence of research that's gone on in America, the medical technology that we have today compared to just 40 years ago, 50 years ago, say, and even in my lifetime, it's just amazing the things that we are able to accomplish. And if you look at the proliferation of the internet and technology and computers, again, in my lifetime, of the, just things that happened in the 20th and 21st century, going back to where we were just horse and buggy 100 years ago, and we are sending people to the moon. We have aircraft that can fly from across the oceans, fly clear across the continent. We can get to where we need to go in America from one coast to the other in maybe 3 or 4 3 or 4 hours, where in our country was founded, it probably took 3 or 4 weeks, maybe even 3 or 4 months to get clear across the country from one coast to the other. And so all of the success that we have, all of the comforts that we have come with the price of sacrifice, but they've also come with the sacrifice of diligence, of commitment. And so what can we commit to today? One of the values that I hold strong in our company is the value of excellence. What can we do a little bit better so that we stand out from the crowd, that we are a little bit better than everybody else that's doing what we're doing? But that's not just a business thing. What can we do a little bit more of? Something that we do well, do a little bit more so that we can have an impact on the rest of the world. And sometimes our world is a world where it's just a few people around us, but we're impacting them. So think about that today. Where can you have impact? Where can you put just a little bit of extra effort into it to get the accomplishment that you want? We love to hear from you. Our contact information is on the screen. We always send you away with God's blessings. Have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.